Let's flow. Living waters, reclaimable flow. Bringing life to our sons and daughters. Reclaimable flow. Let the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. It's reclaimable. Reclaimable, reclaimable flow.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. The Reclamation Project is a place where both believers and unbelievers can come to have questions answered comfortably. TRP allows us the freedom to worship outside the box. Reclaimable Flow After Dark is an expression of those ideals and allows us to reach people where they are. And thank you for joining us this evening. If you're watching this episode later, it's not too late to share it with friends and remind them that you can watch it anytime on our YouTube channel, where you'll discover our sister projects, Reclaiming Your Health with Chef CCPN and Spiritual IV with Pastor Andre Campbell. The Reclamation Project believes in healing you from the inside out. Also, audience, we'd like to have your participation. So please post your favorite lines from our live artists tonight in the chat, and as time permits, we'll address the motivation behind the thought. We appreciate your contribution to our flow. Now, some of the material shared tonight may not be suitable for children. It is provided to give context to the deliverance that I myself and or our guests has experienced in our walk with Christ, and in no way reflects the views of the Reclamation Project. Tonight's guest is a D.C., Maryland native with a passion for Christ and music. Lawz is a producer and composer who is known for his prophetic lyricism, in which he infuses the gospel message with boom bap beats. He intentionally looks to edify God with his unique sound. His desire is to be a conduit for the Holy Spirit to deliver a message to help bring an awareness to our desperate need for God. Lawz has been writing and producing music since he was 14 years old. His music influences include Jay Dilla, Ninth Wonder, and Seven. Ladies and gentlemen, help me present Lawz.
What's going on?
How you doing, my brother?
Doing well.
Man. So tell us a little about yourself, man. One, how many albums do you have out at this time? How many projects are you working on? When can we see you?
So I have a project out now. It's called Object Lessons Volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
There's an Object Lessons Volume 1 that's out too, and I kind of dropped them pretty close together. And basically they're just like they're kind of like short EP projects.
Okay.
Where I just I had like a inspiration kind of welling up, and I was just like, at least now that I'm a little older, I'm all about like, if I get inspired to do something, just like sharing it, just putting it out, like not really hoarding it in the house and just like to my own listening ears, but just like really just, pushing it out. And so, I was inspired to do those projects, and they're pretty short in nature. Like I think 21 minutes, 22 minutes, each project. So they're not, it's a commute from your house to work for most people. So, so that's what I have on now.
I can commute because I was downloading after I heard probably the first 2-3 songs. I was like, man, what else does this brother have, man? And so I just started searching for, projects that either you put out yourself or that you were a part of. You know what I mean? Don't get me talking about how impressed I am, how impactful you are as a lyricist for me. I want the rest of the world, the Reclamation Project world, to get a taste of this as well. I got to send a shout out to my nephew, Trio, for introducing me to you, man, because had it not been for him, you'd have been an undiscovered gem, man. I appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, Lawz.
Okay. This piece is called There It Is. Starts out, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob is my ancestors. That's the true black power without hand gestures, connected by faith in the cross that left the land breathless. Spirit plus the scriptures equals a man's perfection. Throw both hands up in the sky like I'm ambidextrous, can't repress it. His blood killed every strained infection. Put my life inside his hands, then I'm handed blessings. Temptations I'm trying to pass like the standard testing. Multiple choice, wrong answers leave you planned in wreckage. James 4:7 is still the master plan to exit. The enemy will try to block you like a game of Tetris. No weapon formed against me can advance progression, stand protected. Elijah's service eyes can't detect it. Chariots of fire surround me every scan direction. Christ's death upon the cross to turn a man reflective when you realize the price he paid to hand you heaven. Can't repeat the time. These are last days you able to see the signs, steep decline, or those on the narrow road who believe in God. Be advised this earth one day gonna get to see the fire, at least expire. Hope you sing the right tune for you meet the choir. Thieves and lies go to hell with all the non-believers and those who thinking they righteous. Yeah, their minds deceive them. There's only one righteous and those who abide in Jesus. We all sinning for a short. That's grace is our per diem. So none of us can throw stones about the Coliseum because there's a hope he rolls out the mausoleum. My whole goal to make it home for my eyes to see him and bow at his feet and worship is the proper greeting. Time for sleeping. It's over. I told you, never stop the preaching because the soul you think is lost. I know that God can reach him. Applied the teachers to my life to shine inside a beacon. The truth out the word of God. You know what God is speaking.
Man, first of all, that was dope. Let's get that out the way. And so the question I have for you, man, and I feel like it's a really relevant question, man. I'm listening to you, and the cadence, the lyricism, quite easily, if had you chose to, you could have went a Nas or Jay-Z route. What is it that you could share with our audience that convicted you? What was that convicting a moment, scriptural text,
Oh
episode of
man.
your life that caused you to say, you know what? I don't want that road.
The turning point of my so I'll just be quite honest, like, um I've always had like a really honest relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I wasn't trying to like do what he wanted me to do in my life,
Mm-hmm.
we would still have conversations and just talk honestly and candidly about it. So to be honest, I was trying to go Jay-Z, Nas route with my music,
Uh-huh.
and you know, and God was just like, no, like I want you to do this and trust it and believe. When he was like, Christian rap, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, nah, God, like
Right.
I'ma just stop rapping altogether. Like it ain't,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that's gonna work. And as God can only do, he shows you that he can do stuff that you hadn't thought was possible to be
Mm-hmm.
done,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I started like letting God like really into those corners of my life that I had kind of blocked off. I'm like, oh, I want to live my life right in this aspect, but like my music just gonna be like this. And God was like, nah, nah, nah. I need everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started to give him that part of me, he started to show me like we can. I gave you creativity. I created what it means to be creative. So give it to me, and I'll show you how you can put me at the front of it. So um, it was a journey, right? It was stages and progression, but it led me to here, and I'm thankful.
Praise God. It's clear that you love it, man. It's written all over your face, man. It's infectious too.
Mm,
Man, I'm gonna perform this piece called What Reparations Won't Repair.
mm,
We walk a tightrope between two worlds, torn between the expression of our talent as our religion and the expression of our religion through our talents. Masked characters, attempting to interpret what is still a masked character to the soul. Active participants in the shaping of nothingness. Prayer. Prayer has allowed us to exert power even in a moment of slavery. For now, God shows us only the physical realm, while we wait in continual struggle to reach the spiritual that we can be free of the tyranny of our present. In eternity, knowledge shall increase in exponents. Thick lenses of self hate shadow our worldview, matriculating into the theocracy of our theology. 215 years later, and the pain is still fresh from the wounds handed to social justice reform in the name of racial bigotry. The hunted hunter, who sought out food and libation, is the freedom of truth and being. We live with a fragmented sense of wholeness. I refuse to psychologically lighten my skin in order to be accepted, and please, don't confuse this with accepting ignorance or the hatred of education. But I must remain natural like apples, mangoes, and homemade lemonade. Black excellence, treated by its own kind, is the auction block toward assimilation, but works only as the vehicle for the death of depravity and a mindset for settling for a place at the bottom of the barrel. Still angry, and I'm hurting. And yet I'm still able to walk out onto the wings of love, assured that my Redeemer lives, therefore my tomorrow will not be my yesterday, realizing that I was born from the hands of infinity. A king in a servant's clothes is still a king. I live in voices pinned to pavement by the miscarriage of justice, blood gathered by the rain drained out to sea like yesterday's news, radicalized in incubators of forced poverty and oppression driven by sanitized optics, red dirt and chicken wire. Unconditional love, a bevy of loss gained through experience crowd my memory like black and brown bodies inside of the penitentiary. I am flesh that both laughs and cries between birth and its demise, but I must keep fighting until the last word is spoken. It left a sickening lump in my throat when the levees broke. A few weeks earlier, I had just driven across the I-10 to bring my sister home again. Postpartum, I imagined the fear that a black mother feels when she pushes her new bundle of joy from between her legs into a world that has hated them before they ever were, making the wombs that bear them into graveyards of despair, a world that has characterized them as brute forces of violence and treachery, no matter their intelligence and or peaceful calm and resolve. A world that, while having eyes and centuries to evolve, still cannot truly see them. The flag is bleeding and we're the stars. The stripes our backs still bear the scars. The founding fathers claim to be men of God without evidence in their character. I reflect on Mr. Charlie pardoning those he considers friends of the establishment, fully oppressing the souls of men. System apparatus of intentional prejudice. Injustice is the tool used to build a king's palace, and the workers are robbed of their wages. Ebony smooth activism teaches children in the rhythm of somebodyness. Bastards banished to backdoor entrances. Frugality built our own front doors out of the floorboards of poverty. The question never asked is, who governs government? Every day I awake to hate, kissing me on the cheek because of my natural born swagger. It's the melanin in me. Clever arguments can't explain Four Little Girls or the Memphis Motel Lorraine. No Mayday, but a payday sought. The Amistad was no charter. No goods and services bartered. There is no movement without a martyr. The separation of church and state was designed to protect Christianity from becoming a political party. Yet evangelicals persuade policy to resurrect Wall Street back to active slave trade. Politicians tripping, forever giving lip service, trying to portray the grace of Jesus, but trapped in the mind of Judas. Trying to be the long arm of the law without God. We've been given 3 strikes for being male, black, and intelligent. Proper subject is, how do I look to a cop? Shame is, I make my blood brother the ops. What's relevant? My eyes hear the pangs of death. In the silent screams from the watery graves of slaves crossing the transatlantic, breathe every time my lungs expand. Seared images from the 60s of dogs biting us, batons beating us, and fire hoses for control of us. We're reminded when we find a knee in our backs as they're choking us. Those that turn their heads from acknowledgement are members of the occult of compromised hearts, enslaved in the psychology of second-class citizenship. Another young girl's life taken. The brother didn't like how she was moving. Shots fired, his hand was shaking. Standing pat while waiting for oppression to feed us from its coffers of greed, weeks turn into years. The truth is that we need to stop looking for other men to give us value and begin valuing and validating ourselves and one another, without which respect has not 2 legs to stand on. Normalized trauma disregards wives, thus reduced to a baby mama. It's the tremor felt in the family dynamic as intended by God. Emancipated assets on a grand scale treated as projects that need management. We're not the words they call us, because God is our definition. Having said that, I must acknowledge that unforgiveness will kill me if left unchecked. Across cultures, we all want the same thing: liberty, love, and the encouragement of family. we have another brother who's been an inspiration of my own, probably an inspiration to probably all of us. And I hope this speaks to you, Lawz, as well as the viewers, as much as it spoke to me. Proverb video. Welcome back to Reclaimable Flow After Dark. Tonight's guest is our brother Lawz, coming to us from the East Coast. So I understand you have another piece for us.
Yeah, this piece is called Only One. It goes, immense gratitude for grace and mercy over my latitude. Blessings, prosperity reigns over me casual. Pattern moves after Christ's life, they deem radical. Scatter jewels on avenues for those who lack in food and desperation. Preach the gospel until my expiration. Short prayers for direction, you see me hesitating. Revelations, the difference between learning and education. Application, back to basics like plus calculations. Extrapolating wisdom from Psalms that points back to David. Activated to show God's love, crush every act of Satan. Slap them blatant with the faith that moves appellations. Aspirations to be first or have you last in placement. Master greatness, kind words always outlast the hatred. Turn away wrath, that formula that of a math equation. Observations, these days divided populations, conversations about God. Son, I'm not debating. Touchy subject, people buzzing like games of operation. Speak truth, leave it right there like any mama's statements. To look down on your brother is an abomination. Lying tongue, wicked plot, and scheming in a congregation. Those who spread strife and take life but no mind of thinking. For a sin sick soul, only one God of treatment is Christ.
You know, I sit here and I listen to you, and one thing I think about is how many folks don't recognize Christ as the revolutionary that he was. You know what I mean? I'm meaning when he came to this earth. I don't mean was in past tense. He's still here, forever will be here. But when he walked this earth, he came as a revolutionary. You know what I mean? There was an understanding, a message, and a covenant that he came with that man didn't have prior to that, right? And he actually left us in a better position than we were before him coming, correct? And so when I listen to you, it it really it really thrills me to see somebody that's unafraid, undeterred from
Wow.
from speaking up and speaking out and holding on to Christ, even in the face of it not being the popular thing to do right now. See, that's the big thing right there. It's not the
Yeah.
popular thing to do right now. In fact, it alienates us to speak of Christ and speak positive of Christ and try to hold up that gospel banner. So, you know, again, I really appreciate you for that, man, for standing firm on what you believe. You know, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but it's far and few young people, particularly young black males, that are really, you know, what I mean, trying to hold up that bloodstained banner, man. So I
Hey
really,
man, God is been faithful to me, man. You know, so as much as He's done for me, as much as He blessed me, you know, I like I mean, even what I do is not even good enough to return the favor, but
mm,
you know, I can't shortchange it, right? You
mm,
know, especially when it's something real and it really resonates with you. You know, if
hmm
somebody does a great thing for you, you know, it's hard to not give thanks to that person if they do a
Right.
great thing for you, you know. So
Right.
um, you know, I just made a commitment that, with everything that I have to do it, I was going to put everything that I had into it and just try to be as honest and transparent with it and direct with the message. Because I didn't want any. I remember for me personally, I would hear other artists and stuff, and I would
Mm-hmm.
just be like, why don't they just say Christ? Why don't they just like be more direct? Say Jesus, like, put his
Right.
name in your, like, it's like they're
Instead
trying
of
to,
just God.
yeah, it's like a swindle. Like they're trying to get you to think it's secular rap,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's Christian behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, nah, I don't want anybody to even be mistaken. Like who we talking about, what I'm the message that I'm trying to put forth. Like, I don't want any confusion. Like you're gonna know right away. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully it challenges you to like, well, why is he going like this? Like,
Right.
who is this? And look into it for themselves. So
I definitely stand in agreement on that. Like the pieces I'm presenting this evening tonight are not always my typical pieces. I try to at least attempt to be well rounded and dabble in a number of topics, but I also understand that when I call myself standing underneath the umbrella of Christianity, if I see something is wrong, I can't just turn my head and act like it's not happening, it's not there, that I don't see it, because then, and by all extents and purposes, I'm complicit in whatever that situation
yeah.
is. Mm,
I've heard your bars too, man. You got you're a lyricist yourself over there,
I appreciate
spitting jewels, man.
you.
I
I
I,
appreciate
I
you.
appreciate the piece you gave tonight. Like, I think people don't really recognize just how much like Christ cares about racial injustice. He cares about, how people are mistreated, on the basis of the color of their skin, just, I was looking at a documentary recently just talking about the foundations of Christianity in Africa and how, big it was in Africa. And
Hmm.
people, look at it mostly as like a European religion, but
Right.
the roots of it is straight out of Africa, and
Hmm.
from our people of color. So, as I'm learning and growing, it just those things bring me joy to know that the God that I serve cares about that.
Praise
Like
God.
that.
Praise
So
God. I'm gonna present one more piece. Um, and then I got just a few questions before we close out, but I'm gonna present one more piece. This piece is entitled Pink Elephants. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. This invitation from 1883 was less suggestion because our RSVP was written in blood and feces. Black ink signs off on the bill for moral corruption, whose ink pens would sink men who sought freedom. Forgiveness set my abuser free. America's high crimes branded a misdemeanor, while warehousing is a monopoly on men and women of color. It's still my father's America. Mississippi's pride, baptized in Alabama's crimson tide. Institution is the war on knowledge. Hatred-driven division, context taken from the Bible of Satan. Flags of independence enslave men as depraved sin in pursuit of justice. The taboo topic is that the wealth of the church benefited from the transatlantic slave trade. Coffers of change held men in chains in a ship's hull. Out in the cold with a heart of true light and a dark night for the soul. Liberation transcends generations and is more than a state of mind. True religion is revolution magnified exponentially. I've never seen justice in a foreign land. If we truly believe that love is found in the laughter of little children, then why do the streets run rampant with the blood of the innocent? Classrooms turned into open coffins. Homeschooling is a new tool witnessing social distancing. A hands-on lesson in depression. Crack was our distraction. She fancies herself the summit of civilization, but arrogance has always been the precedent for institutionalized racism. Further, I'm an accomplice to my own murder when injustice is the weapon, my silence is the magazine. A toxic blend of white superiority and black inferiority. For once, we've colored inside the lines of presidential office, but existential climates build walls around the only home we've ever known, beyond the glow of the moment. Acceptable exceptions are outside suggestions on who we ought to be, the bait we choke on without realizing we're still not free. All chains aren't physical. Our leaders have been reduced to slogans on a t shirt. So has the needle really moved? Tugging at the violin of my heart? Huddled masses rummage through trash while a politician just ate a $5,000 plate. Left with the master tools, we master the master's rules, but he's still the author. Open jailers to lies, revolution requires an admittance to the truth in order for justice to be realized. We must be more than an appendage in the annals of American history. No need to creep in silence when puppet policies are authored nonfiction, and the desired effect is the benediction. How many scars? How many tears? How much blood? How many years? Behind bars, living in fear, pink elephants, black elegy tales telling me the mitigating circumstances failing me. The color coded constitution bent and twisted to pollute the heart of justice. In the vacuum of time, unconsciously reserved tears reveal fears, unaddressed and some of which could have been avoided. We seem to do all that we can according to what it is our will to do, falling short of capabilities. Glorifying death in our communities until it's done by a badge. Corners covered with candles and empty liquor bottles, bodies without graves. We must learn to allow struggle to speak through positive action. The question is not what does it mean to be black or white, but what does it mean to be human? This defines the compassion and empathy necessary to be your brother's keeper. Racism is the historical fecal matter of America's conscious conscience, a complicated democracy of placated dehumanization by denial of truth, trading white sheets for blue walls, a classic story strung together by a slave opera whose stage has only changed its clothes to adapt to its time, as political policy cosmetically acknowledges and yet enables the disenfranchisement of God's people. How many know that lynching was still legal in many states of the U.S., going unaddressed until 2022? Predecessors and beneficiaries placed a bullet in the head of democracy, while immobilizing a true sense of indigenous culture through limited rights and citizenship. It takes courage to love and yet stand against conformity to injustice in the face of the status quo. Do we integrate into a burning house while still panhandling in its doorway for fruits that our own labors bore? Black and brown bodies treated like fodder for the flames of the penal system as rehabilitation transitioned to cash value recidivism. Misogynistic methods of management manipulate minds in their adolescence of understanding. Truth, and therefore women of all colors, remained victims, despite the first of her kind as vice president. With collective effort to search the precincts of our own souls to cause change in policy, men standing up for the right wage and appointment of women with equity, challenging men to think outside of their own masculinity, deferred gratification. We must never confuse charity with justice. Unparalleled prosperity garnered for a country that mandates patriotism but refuses to love us back. It is survival of the slickest. The gangsterization of corporate America has evolved into a Darwinian democracy. Men must be pushed to surrender our male supremacy to better forward the future of America. Because it's the kids that wear the scars, robbed of the nothing they never had. Now, after unloading that, I gotta ask you, man, because I'm sure um, after those two pieces you just gave us, those two gems you just gave us, um, that the audience is wondering what platforms can they purchase your material from, your music from? Um, will you be doing any tours in the future? Are you touring now? Like, how do they get in contact with you?
So you can follow me at Laws to Live By on social media platforms. I have projects on all streaming platforms, so you can go to Spotify, Tidal. Um, you can go to Apple Music. You can
Mm-hmm.
find. You just type in Laws, and I have all my projects, even collaboration projects that I have um, up on the platforms. You can find it there. Um, I mean, I'm working on another project. Um, I I try to like while the iron is hot, I just try like heavy inspiration. There's a lot of stuff happening in our world, and funny thing enough, every time I study and I like have a good study session, like in the Bible and I'm looking at, then I get inspired to like write something,
Same here.
So
Same here.
yeah, so I'm I'm working on another project. I'm not touring right now, but probably. uh, I mean, I have a 2-year old, so I'm
Hmm.
trying to just stay
I got
home with the family,
I
just
got you.
enjoy that. But
I got you.
maybe like late summer this year, I
Hmm.
might do a couple shows and tour East Coast. So
Well, man,
we'll see what God has in store.
keep the Reclamation Project abreast of what you doing, man. You know what I mean? Because we'd be more than happy, honored even. You know what I mean? To roll it out, man. You know what I mean? Let folks know.
I appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys having me on. Even reaching out. Um, it's definitely a blessing. Keep me in my ministry in prayer, and I definitely do
Indeed,
the same for you guys.
indeed, indeed. Blessings on you, bruh. In closing, we humbly leave you with these words of encouragement. To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. 1 Corinthians 9:22. TRP family, God bless you. Thank you for joining us.
Let the words flow. Living waters. Reclaimable flow. Bringing light to our sons and daughters. Reclaimable flow. Let the words of my mouth and meditation of